I had a ride in it, and I wouldn't have changed places from the King of England in those days.
It's just something you seem to get stuck with, and that's all you ever want to really play around with.
It gets in the brain, I think. Steam does, yeah.
A lot of it's nostalgia, reminiscence of your younger days.
That's me, yep, third generation.
Oh, up until I was about 16, I was on boxes driving them everywhere.
Bred into me, I think it's in the blood.
Steam will live, yes.
It'll be alive and well when we're both gone.
Forever, yeah.
I'll roll over it in the box if I thought they wouldn't look after it, you know.
I'm positive of that, yes.
She'll live. Especially, you can't let this old girl die, can you?
In Tasmania, steam lives in many ways. In the massive engines which once drove the island's biggest sawmills, and the smaller ones which drove launches and ferry boats, effortlessly and silently. It lives too in a full-scale, privately operated railway. And it lives in impressive permanent displays. Lovingly collected and maintained by ageing men whose entire lives have been punctuated by the sound of a steam whistle. But steam lives too in other simpler ways, with individuals and families who own an engine or two or more and bring them together once a year in a quiet country town. The town is Sheffield, deep in the northwest, and this is the Sheffield Steamfest. At Sheffield, it's a relaxed and informal celebration of engines which spent their working lives in the district, plus the odd ring-in. When rocket technology let the first cosmonauts and astronauts look down on planet Earth from deep space, steam was still a driving force in the good Earth around Sheffield. Cutting chaff by steam worked well then, and it works well now, even if the human component is a bit rustier than the machines. It's a change of role too for Ralph Proctor's Marshall. It had quite a different working life.
Well, I bought it back in 1958 from Scottsdale. It was from the sawmill up there, and it was going for scrap. And I picked it up for 25 pounds, and we steamed it through to Corolla. And it's been out there till about the last 12 months.
So it was driving a sawmill, was it?
It was, yeah. When they put a diesel in, it became obsolete. So we got it from there.
And what sort of condition was it in when you got it?
Basically good. The boiler was good. Just a few bits and pieces had to be put back on it, straightened out. But she steamed well.
Well, someone reckoned it was worth £25 when you bought it.
Yeah,
what's
right.
it worth now?
£40 scrap it was, and £25 to buy. You get 15 to 20,000, I reckon now. You should be able to get.
Cheap at that?
Oh, fair price, yeah.
What's the story of the twin whistles?
Well, they're from railway locomotives. The large one's off a Australian standard Garrett, and the small one's off a steam camel car.
And why are they on this one? Nostalgia?
Oh, a bit of nostalgia. Reminds you a bit of your railway years, yeah.
Can we have a listen?
I reckon. Yep. Thrashing grain from the era before headers and combine harvesters.
This time the engines are Foden, made by a company which once was so big and so secure that it had its own much-recorded musicians, the internationally known Foden Motorworks Brass Band. Max Chatwin fell in love with the Foden when he was still in short pants.
She came from this district. The original owner bought it in 1911. He had it for 40 years, Sid Smith. That's why I got the name on the back of her, Sydney S. Smith. And when I was 10 years old, my father had a farm out the road here, and I had a ride in it. And I wouldn't have changed places from the King of England in those days. Never ever thought that I'd own it. You know.
And how did you come to own it?
Well, an old chap, I live in Sprent, an old chap had it, and I went up there one day and I said, that's Sid Smith's old Fodens, one of his Fodens, and he said yes. And I kept going up, and in the end he could see that I really wanted it, so he let me have it. I've had it for about 20 years, I suppose.
Does it take a big part of your life, Nick?
Well, it takes a bit of it, I can tell you, but of course retired now, and my youngest daughter said yesterday, she said, the chap that was carting it over, he said, you be careful of that, Dad thinks more of that than he does of me, so and that's not quite true though. Well, steam is important to me because it was a big thing to get the countries rolling, and what I admire about this is the wonderful workmanship of the people who built the thing, you know, mostly by hand, and it's so well built, and I admire the engineering.
Is the Foden a better machine than the Marshall in your view?
Yes. I class the Marshall as a Holden or, say, a Falcon. That's a good, reliable, everyday sort of machine, but the Foden, a bit more of a thoroughbred. They cost quite a lot more money when they were bought, and they're a lot easier to drive, they're more economical, and in my book they are a Jaguar or something of that class.
And a very sweet note when they're running.
Yep. There's no other engine made that's got the note the Foden's got.
When blokes of your age aren't around anymore, Max, what's going to happen to steam? Is it going to live on?
Yes. Yeah, there's young people coming on, thank goodness. I had my grandson sitting up there and he's traction engine mad, but whether he'll get it or not I don't know, but still got other grandsons. Got to work it out a bit, haven't I?
What's that?
Somewhat immersed in the problems of his recalcitrant steam wagon, Eric Howe is the driving force behind the Redwater Creek Steam and Heritage Society, the organiser of the Sheffield event. For Eric, steam has been part of life since childhood.
My father was a thrashing contractor. He started in about 1920. Most of the gear, a lot of the machinery that's here today, the chaff cutter and the hay press and quite a bit, and a couple of steam engines, 3 steam engines actually were his engines. We have some of our own machinery, but a lot of 50% of the stuff is what my father used as a contractor. The little Betsy, the little roller you see here, he used that for about 10 years, bought me a lot of shoes and a lot of meals. The old Buffalo pits, he bought that in 1926 second hand. And together with the Cliff and Bunting chaff cutter there, that was bought he bought that in 1926 and worked them both right up into the mid-60s, contracting. He worked his steamroller until the mid-60s, and then he retired. And so when my family grew up, I decided to restore some of the stuff, and here we are.
Did you get involved in steam when you were a young fellow, or did you get right away from the steam?
Oh, up until I was about 16, I was on boxes driving them everywhere. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I loved it, and my father was very well recognised in that game, and you know, I loved it, and I sort of missed it when I had to go and I see the transition from steam to, or the later into the steam to internal combustion tractors and bulldozers and all the other thing. I see that, and I went on with the transition, and when I grew out of it, when I grew up, I sort of reared my family. I got back into it, you see, and I'm enjoying it, thoroughly enjoying it.
So you went from steam to diesel and back to steam, so to speak?
That's about it, yeah. Yeah, I had 30 years mining and logging, and to rear my family, and now I'm not retired. I still work for a living, but I'm restoring pretty heavy.
So it's a bit more than a hobby, really, isn't it?
Oh, it gets in the brain, I think. Steam does, yeah. Back in the 30s, mid-30s, during the Depression years, my mum and dad, they were running a sawmill at Mole Creek, and they just lived in a camp and didn't have an oven, so they utilised the old Buffalo Pitts traction engine there and a couple of pieces of steel to go from the door up in the tubes, and mother would have the bread ready and push the trays of bread up in the oven when we knocked off work at night, you know, and just put a cover over the funnel of the engine to hold the heat in, and yeah, she baked bread for probably 2 years like that.
What happens to the family interest in steam when you give it away?
Well, I have a son that's very interested in it here, and a son-in-law, and hopefully grandchildren that can keep it going, yeah.
Well, what is it about steam?
I suppose I'm so used to it. I grew up with it, and I mean I know the values of it, and whatever. It's a very good source of power. It's one of the best that I know of, but because of its expansive values, you know, it expands about 1,700 times its own volume, and when you can get something like that out of steam and against compressed air that can't do it, you know.
But you're not doing it for that, are you? There's something else about it that keeps people like you involved for a lifetime.
I suppose everything is a challenge. To me, everything is a challenge.
For today, Eric's challenge will be to persuade the Super Sentinel into life. For the Buffalo Pitts and Eric's son Bevan, it's more wood, more water, a minor hiccup overcome, then back to business, baling the spent straw from the thrashing machine. Bevan Howe has cheerfully accepted the steam legacy of his father and grandfather.
That's me, yep, third generation.
Did you have any choice about going into steam, or was it something that you had to do?
No, I think it was just, it's in the blood, it's bred into me.
You enjoy it?
Yeah, love it, yeah, it's good.
What was the history of this engine? Do you know what it's like been?
It sat in the shed at Mole Creek for years after my grandfather finished with it, and we just took her out of the shed and took her home and restored her.
At Sheffield, it's come as you like, and with whom. On Sheffield's Redwater Creek line, a 2-foot gauge loco has its devotees too.
Kraus locomotive, built in 1906, Munich, Germany. Came to Tasmania to work on the Sandfly colliery. Ran from Sandfly to Margate from about 1908 until about the late 1920s, when the colliery closed down and it then transferred to the Ida Bay Railway. Operated there until approximately 1947, when diesel locos overtook it in them days and it became redundant and fell into disrepair. And Peter and I and another chap, we started collecting parts of it up, and it took until, what, 1973, 4, 5 before we really had a locomotive that could run again. And it's been operating at Ida Bay and at Second River Tramway, and now here at the Redwater Creek.
How much spare time does it give you, Peter?
None. With all the other hobbies I'm interested in as well.
Are you a steam fanatic?
I wouldn't say that.
His wife would.
How much of your time does it take?
Practically all my spare time.
Same with you, John?
Yes, practically all the spare time for the last 35, nearly 40 years, I suppose.
I think we've put in a lot more time since it's been up here than we did when it was up at Corolla.
And are you getting the satisfaction out of it in return?
Yeah.
So what is it about steam for you fellows? Peter?
I don't know, a bit of an addiction, I think.
How about you?
I've just been interested in it since about 1956 when I started working on steam locomotives in the railway.
And you've stuck with it?
I've been into traction engines and now into the 2-foot gauge.
How about you, John?
Oh yes, it's just something you seem to get stuck with, and that's all you ever want to really play around with.
What's the future for old locos like these? Are they going to run forever?
All the time you find someone that can repair them and look after them, and the money.
Their life is totally dependent on the condition of the boiler. Once the boiler's reached its end of its working life, you're looking at $20,000 or $30,000 to build a new boiler.
So they become an economic proposition then?
Well, they can be repaired. Depending on how serious the fault is, it can be repaired.
So what's the future for this old girl?
Well, this particular boiler engine was reboiled in 1938, and it wasn't used after about 1947 until we got it going again in 1971. So by working life, it's a very young boiler.
So it's going to see you two out?
Hope so.
Depends how long we've got, doesn't it?
compound Marshall, another engine with its own niche in Tasmanian history. And an owner too young to remember the golden age of steam, but proud to have brought one historic engine back to its Tasmanian beginnings.
The engine is a 1907 Marshall compound, and originally was shipped from England to Devonport. It arrived in 1907, unloaded on the Devonport wharf in crates, of course, and was put together on the wharf and then steamed. It came up to Sheffield to a bloke called Tommy Butler. He was a Member of Parliament in those days and quite a well-known businessman. He had the engine. It's a road loco. It's sprung, which was quite unusual for that early years, and his plan was to use it for carting hay, timber between here and Devonport. Quite a good idea. He come unstuck and come under unfavourable cloud from the local councils during the winter. The engine was just too heavy for the roads of the day, and chopped him up that bad that they actually banned him from the roads. He sold the engine, and it went into the Launceston district, where it was used for general cartage and chaff cutting and threshing. It spent a lot of its years, all in the early 20s and into the 30s, up and down the Midlands Highway, working on a portable stone crusher on contract to the Department of Works, and probably most of the Midlands Highway today is crushed with this engine. A lot of hard work. It's done a lot of road miles. I had the fortune to actually talk to one of the last owners, and they used to take 7 days to go from Launceston to Hobart and back, and they'd put their bike on the engine with an axe. Two of them would go on the engine, and one would ride ahead, and he'd cut a load of wood, make up fire, get a bit of food ready, and when the engine turned up, they'd load the engine up with the wood, have a bite to eat, and then they'd swap over. The other bloke then would head off down the road with his bike and cut a bit of wood and so on. So quite an adventure.
And being a compound engine, it's a bit different too. What is the difference between a compound engine and the standard steam engine?
One of the main differences is that they are reputedly to be more efficient. You've got two pistons, a small piston which is your high pressure side, and then the larger piston which is your low pressure. So what in fact you're doing is you're using your steam twice. It first goes into your high pressure, then the exhaust from the high pressure goes and is used in the low pressure. So that being a little bit more efficient, they are a little bit more economical as far as wood and water goes.
And how did you come by the engine?
A friend of mine, he had a few engines at Evandale. That's Dave von Stieglitz. He'd rescued this engine. It had used its last days in a quarry at St Leonard's, and they ran it there until actually it was that tired that they just towed it aside and just left it in the Blackberries. He rescued it in the late 60s, and he was going to restore it, but he did actually pick up a better engine, and I was lucky enough for him to make it available so that I could continue on the restoration.
And does it take big chunks out of your life now that you have it?
Yeah, and big chunks out of your skin actually if you're not careful. It is. I've had it over 20 years, and it's been an enjoyable reunion, I think, and a lot of time, and you have to be prepared for that. A lot of heavy work. Everything is heavy. It's dirty work. There's no spare parts, of course. You have to either make it yourself. If you haven't got access to facilities, then you have to go out and get it made. Quite expensive if that's the case, but the end result is well worth it. On a day like today or a weekend like this, it's all comes together.
So it's going to be a lifetime thing for you?
Certainly. Luckily the family are interested, and that makes it much more enjoyable.
And the future for steam?
I think it's up to us to make sure there's enough younger people getting the interest and getting the enthusiasm to keep it going. As you say, the people around who, where this was everyday familiar work, they're getting older and fewer people around. I think we have to, keep selling the message. It's unfortunate that the kids of today, all they see is these sitting round more or less as showpieces. They don't see them as a actually hard-working machine, whereas they see the local tractor hard-working and they can equate with that. So I think there's a message to sell, but I think we do have to preserve it as part of our heritage.
Les Richards' 3 horsepower portable has quite a track record, so has its owner. When the steam bug bit Les, he was just a toddler.
When I was about 4 years old, watching the steam rollers roll the roads in Bentley in Victoria.
It was a fascination at that
It was
early
a fascination. Their local council had about 6 steam rollers at that time.
Did you actually work in steam?
I worked on steam marine engines, yes, at the Commonwealth Marine Engine Works at the end of the war. They were still building steam engines, triple expansion for the river-class steamboats owned by the government.
And after that?
After that, I built my own railway locomotives, miniature ones, and then I got involved with the Marshall I've got here today.
You came to Tasmania with the portable?
With the engine, yes, about 6.5 years ago. We bought that, and the 52 tonne we brought with us. Bit of a machine shop and the bits and pieces of scrap steel, as everyone would say.
And how long is this Marshall going to go?
Oh, many, many years. See me out.
You've had, what, 60 years involvement now?
With steam, yes. Yeah. That engine was built in 1917. It was used for sheep shearing.
They were an engine that you could take anywhere and drive just about anything with, I guess.
They were. They're a portable engine for sheep shearing or cutting wood or anything like that. Originally they were pulled by a horse and they were just moved to anywhere where they needed an engine to drive something, a water pump or anything like that.
And how long are you going to be keeping steam up in this one?
Well, 3 days at the moment, but a good number of years more, I hope.
Also at work, the new internal combustion technology which helped make Les's shearing engine obsolete. And, with the drag saw, offered an alternative to manpower. In fact, internal combustion spawned a most unlikely collection of small engines with equally unlikely names. And eventually a bizarre generation of tractors. At Sheffield for 3 days every March, each has its rightful place, a respectful distance behind the heroes of steam. For those besotted by steam but uncomfortable with 12 inches to the foot, miniature engines are the answer. Once a year, the Hobart Miniature Steam Locomotive Society abandons its permanent outdoor track for a temporary one at the Model Makers and Collectors Exhibition. In miniature, steam certainly has a lighter side. And despite appearances, it's anything but kids' stuff. Here, enthusiasts stick to the rails by building and operating accurate miniatures of the real thing. So, what do you put on the kindling to start a miniature engine?
A bit of kerosene or firelighters or whatever, just to get the initial fire started, and then we'll switch over to the little bits of broken up briquettes and little bits of coal.
How long does it take usually to get steam up?
Oh, 10 minutes or to see us with. We don't want to get too much steam up on here because we've got to lift them over onto the track there, and that's just getting a little bit careful. But it should be okay.
What's the story with this engine?
This one's in fact, the full-size one of this is preserved up in New South Wales. Originally brought out as the Z class and later on modified and called H class. Light express duties back in the late 1800s. This is to get the fire started. On full-size engines you can light the fire and there is enough draft to go through and get it going, but with the small scale you can't get enough draft, so you put on a blower, which we'll just connect in a moment, to get a bit of draft to initially start the fire. And once I get a little bit of steam up, I can take that off and switch over to the engine steam.
Did you build it, Miles?
Oh yes, oh my word.
How long did it take?
About, I guess 2,500 hours, something like that, spread over a couple of years. And it's about 3 years old now. In fact, the boiler certificate's due to run out later on this year, at which stage I've got to pull the whole thing down and have the boiler retested and then put it all back together again.
You look forward to that?
Oh, well, not particularly, but there are a couple of mods I want to make to it, down in the works, underneath there in the valve gear, and it'll be a good opportunity to do it. It's nothing spectacular, but it just might make it go a little bit better. It goes quite well, but I think I can make it a little bit better.
But there is always something going on somewhere in the arena and somewhere in the centre. It doesn't look as though it's the first one you've built, Miles.
No, this is the 5th one actually, and in fact I picked up a job yesterday to build another one, a bit smaller than this but still 5-inch gauge, so that'll keep me busy during the winter months.
What got you started in steam?
Oh, I've always been interested in it over the years, and some years ago, before I retired from telecom, I decided to build a little steam engine, which I did, and it worked, and it was a marine engine, so I thought, righto, I'll make a boat for it, which I did, and then that turned out successfully, so I thought, right, let's have a go at a steam train. So I built the little green one over there, which is a beginner's locomotive, and that turned out well. So I got a taste for it and just kept going. I've been going ever since and likely to do so for the foreseeable future.
The skill and sureness of hand of the maker are evident in every line. And just like their big brothers, the miniatures get hot and require careful handling. As president of the Miniature Steam Locomotive Society, Bill Wren is on the lookout for new members, men and women, young or old. The key requirement is an interest in steam or in miniature making, or both. Exhibitions such as this two-day event expose the miniature steam enthusiasts to a wider audience. Some are seeing steam for the first time. Few know anything about the society.
The club's a fairly small club, based mainly from Hobart. Our membership tends to date back from the days when rail was real, when steam was real. It's an interest that's brought about through several reasons. One may be workshop operations, the other's the love of steam. So if you have workshop operations, this is a good aim to go for, rather than just making rubbish tins full of swart on your lathe or miller. Yes.
It's toys for the boys stuff though, really, isn't it?
It could be accused of that, I guess, but these are genuine working miniatures. Everything the real ones do, these do. They've got the steam brakes, the steam injectors, everything's there. And toys, well, I guess the cost of a toy doesn't mean much as to whether it is a toy or not. But the Green Arrow over there, it'd have to be $10,000 to $12,000 worth. No troubles at all. So yes, I guess they are toys for the boys.
And why not?
Yeah, why not? It's yes.
How did you get involved?
I got involved because I enjoyed workshop operations, and this was something to do with those skills.
And it's real steam.
It's real steam. It burns. Yes, it does. It does everything. Yes.
Have you ever been considered getting involved with the real things, the full-scale steam engines?
No, not really. This is something that's the hobby's basically home-based. You do it on your own, and we meet once a week and compare notes and compare workmanship and skills and this sort of thing. It's real live steam, real full-size steam is an away from home thing. All your work, all your maintenance, all your construction's done away from home. When you've got a family, this is a good hobby.
you're only a knock on the floor to the workshop underneath away.
Yeah. Does it tend to be a men-only business?
It is here.
How do the partners of your members feel about their men's obsession with these models?
Well, personally, I can't speak for everyone, but personally I have no troubles. As I said before, it's a home-based hobby. You're
So what does your
only
wife
away
say
for
about
Saturday. She's got no problems with it at all.
Does she enjoy it?
She doesn't enjoy it if I tramp grease into the house, no. But no, she's fairly happy with it. Yes, yes. Comes down and makes the right noises and expressions when I ask her what she thinks of a particular thing.
So she tells you how clever you are?
How clever she'd like to think I am, yeah. Yes.
And is it the sort of thing you see yourself continuing on with indefinitely? I mean, is it that sort of obsession?
Well, the limitations of this hobby is eyesight and steadiness of hand. Once you get to a stage where those faculties desert you, you're stymied, yes. But we've had members that have been active in the club up until this year that are in excess of 80. They still produce beautiful work.
So there's hope for the rest of us?
Yes, perhaps.
As with his fellow club members, making the engine has also been a big part of the fascination for Ian Simpson.
It's a faithful reproduction of a full-size engine of 1903, designed by G.J. Churchwood for the Great Western Railway. He built about 37 of them, and the castings and the plans became available for it here about 1980, and it was described in one of the model engineering magazines. So being a Great Western fan, got the castings and built it.
And when you say faithful, how faithful?
It's an exact replica, an exact 1/16 full-size replica. The only thing that's different in it is the number of tubes in the boiler. Like the full-size engine would probably have something like 300 to 350 fire tubes, whereas these only have about 14, because you can't scale nature right down, and you'd have little tubes you could hardly see through. So you've got to take a bit of liberty there to get the boiler to work. But the rest of it, all the valve gear, the general dimensions, the whole lot is exactly as per the full-size engine.
And how long to build it?
They take about, depending on the type, they take about 2,000 to 2,500 hours. So somewhere around about that. I never kept an accurate record, but it'd be around about that on average, yeah.
How many have you built?
4. The first one was a little tiny one called Titch, and there's a couple of examples on the table there. And my 2 other ones are on the table there, the big Prairie tank and the Pannier tank. So that makes up the 4, including this fellow.
What got you started here?
Oh, I've been a railway fanatic since so high. Yeah, it just sort of gets into your blood and doesn't go away. And I've just stuck with it since I was probably about 10 or 11 or something like that. Model railways for a start. And then when I was about 40, the steam bug got me then, and I was able to afford a lathe. And away I went, fulfilled the dream of having the proper working locomotive.
So for you it's railways and steam?
Yes.
2 things?
Oh yes. I'm a lover of railways in general, and steam in particular. Yeah.
What about full-size steam?
Yes. I've visited a lot of full-size steam preservation areas, both in England and here, but it's heavy duty. 12 inches to the foot takes a lot of handling. You've got to have cranes and gantries and everything else, whereas these, you can work on them on a bench and manhandle things better. But the full-size one, magical, absolutely.
And what about people in your family, what do they think about your obsession with
I
racing?
don't think they class me as an eccentric, but they go along with it. None of my family are interested as such. I have one son and I thought he might have had some glimmer of interest, but no, he's a fisherman and a surf rider and everything else. He's not one bit interested in it.
Are young people in general interested? I mean, are the young people coming through the club?
No, they're interested in it. They like to see it in a situation like this, but here, as far as getting younger members into the club, we're finding it very, very difficult, because I think it's a technology that the current generation's not familiar with. They didn't grow up with it. And with the advent of computerisation and all these sort of things as alternatives, they go for that rather than this sort of hobby. So we're a club of oldies, so to speak, yeah.
Well, the full-time steam enthusiasts tell me that steam will live forever. How about in the miniature? Is it going to live forever?
I'm sure it'll live forever, because the movement throughout the world is massive. England probably is the home of it. In miniature design to construction. America, of course, Australia overall, and I would say most countries in the world would have their steam enthusiasts and their clubs, and I think it will live forever.
Which means the young people will come from somewhere eventually.
Oh, I think so. They will eventually.
You've built 4. Any plans for a 5th?
No. I've been at it for 20 years and getting a little bit older, and when you're chasing that last thousandth of an inch day after day, hour after hour, you think, well, I think I've had enough. So I'm happy to play with the ones that I've built and run them now, rather than build any more.
And you can do that indefinitely?
Oh, yes. This machine's 13 years old. I wouldn't like to guess what mileage it's done. It'd be, hundreds of kilometres. And yet every time I pull it down to do its 3-yearly overhaul, it's just a matter of a clean out and perhaps replace a small bush or two, and you put it together and it's good for another 3 years.
How about the machine under the cap?
Well, that's still going all right.
So you can keep going indefinitely too?
I could keep going indefinitely if I wanted to, but I've got a model railway that I operate as well, and a few other interests, so I sort of have got away from the pressure of making these, more to the leisure of playing with them. Yes.
Tell me about that cap. Where did you get it?
It came from England, actually. We used to see them advertised in the magazines, and it is an authentic British railway driver hat. And it serves a very useful purpose in that it has a special top, what they call a grease-proof top, so you don't pop the sparks and burn your head. And that's why we wear them. They're not ornamentation. They actually keep us baldies from harm. Yes, they're available in Britain, and each visitor friend of mine's gone over there, he's picked one up for me.
And it's got a Great Western badge?
It's got a Great Western badge, which are available over there from the various retailers in that form, and also in the company crest form as well. And you'll find that crest repeated here on the side of the tender of the locomotive. Yeah.
So a highly desirable item?
Oh yes, very much so, and very necessary. Yeah.
Like 12 inches to the foot steam, there's a truism about the miniatures. It doesn't matter how many you've restored, how many you've built, how many you own. You can only ride one at a time. For safety and convenience, the stationary steam engines on display are driven by compressed air. Miniature or full size, these Tasmanians do what they do because of their inexpressible love of steam. They see their role in keeping steam alive not as an indulgence in an outdated technology, but more as an enjoyable duty. As keepers of the flame, most share a common optimism in the future. Steam lives in Tasmania and will continue to live. With something so quiet, so powerful, so fascinating, so wonderful, how could it possibly be otherwise?